Welcome, friends. Today, we embark on a thrilling journey through the 2020 movie, Trap. The movie opens with a steamy scene of a couple, Junsu and Hyeji, locked in a passionate embrace on a couch. As the heat of the moment intensifies, Junsu attempts to undress Hyeji, but she stops him, expressing her apprehension that their relationship may change after they engage in intercourse and that she is not ready for it yet. Upon hearing this, Junsu's disappointment was palpable, as he had been eagerly awaiting the opportunity for intimacy with his girlfriend. The following day, Junsu and Hyeji bid each other farewell as Junsu sets off for college. Meanwhile, Hyeji reunites with her closest confidants, Seon and Yoonji, who also happens to be her flatmate. As Yoonji sits sipping her latte at the cafe, she can't help but spill the juicy details of a recent heartbreak she had heard about. A fellow college student has apparently dumped his girlfriend after sleeping with her, leaving Hyeji feeling even more insecure and confused about her own relationship with Junsu. As luck would have it, Hyeji soon meets another friend, Woojin, who is fiercely protective of her, and the two make their way to class together, where they are soon joined by Junsu and Seon. There, the couple ends up arguing again. The following week, Hyeji and Junsun are set to celebrate their 200th anniversary. Determined to make things right, Hyeji decides to wait for Junsu at a cozy cafe. But when he texts her, saying he is in a group meeting at home, her suspicions get aroused. Unsettled, she decides to pay him a surprise visit at his apartment. What she finds there, however, is anything but expected. Outside Junsu's bedroom, she discovers a pair of girls' boots, a handbag, and a shrug. As she reaches for the doorknob, Seon suddenly appears, interfering with her actions. The next day, as Hyeji, Woojin and Junsu are seen sitting in a cafe, Junsu begins to gather his things, ready to depart for his apartment. Apparently, he has group meetings and assignments with Seon to attend to. Despite his urgent need to leave, Hyeji eagerly offers to join him and Seon for their meeting and assignments. As Hyeji overhears the conversation at Junsu's apartment, she can't believe her ears as she hears Seon flirtatiously request a kiss from Junsu. Despite her initial shock, she brushes it off as a harmless joke. But her nightmare becomes true later that evening when she catches Junsu in the act of cheating on her with her closest friend, Seon. The betrayal cuts deep, leaving Hyeji feeling devastated and heartbroken. She goes to the club and drowns her sorrows in alcohol. She comes across an attractive stranger, and in the heat of passion, they impulsively decide to rendezvous in a nearby motel. The next morning, as she arrives at college, she finds out that the rumor of her and Junsu's breakup is the hot topic on campus. As she aimlessly wanders, Woojin approaches her and invites her out for a meal. Yoonji also joins them later on. At college, Hyeji spots a man with whom she spent the previous evening. She tries to avoid him, but this only piques Woojin's interest. During the course project, Hyeji is taken aback to discover that she is paired with Junsu, as well as the mysterious man from the motel, Kyung-woo, who turns out to attend the same college as her. Kyung-woo boldly requests her number, and without hesitation, she hands it over. After catching a glimpse of the exchange, Junsu attempts to intervene, but Hyeji swiftly corrects him, reminding him that they were no longer a couple. With that, she departs the classroom. Kyung-woo follows her outside and attempts to have an important conversation, but she tells him to forget what happened the previous night, ignores him, and leaves. In the following scene, it is revealed that rumors about her clubbing and cheating on Junsu with a stranger have been spreading on social media. With eager steps, Kyung-woo sprints towards Hyeji, intent on discussing the possibility of becoming friends. However, his approach is met with a cool reception from Hyeji, who appears to be unresponsive and uncomfortable. Despite Kyung-woo's persistent efforts, Hyeji can't shake off the lingering awkwardness between them. Hyeji politely excuses herself and walks away as soon as her class is over. Later, she waits anxiously in the hallway for Yoonji, but her excitement turns to disappointment when she learns that she will be staying longer. As she walks, she can't shake the feeling that someone is following her. Her heart races as she glances over her shoulder and sees a figure lurking behind her. In a panic, she quickly dials her friend Yoonji for help. Her pursuer quickly darts into a nearby corner, clearly intimidated by her bold move. After facing so much negativity and harassment due to a rumor, Hyeji has grown weary of social interactions, so she decides to hide herself. In the next scene, Hyeji encounters Woojin, who reassures her that she's done nothing wrong and there's no need for her to conceal herself. However, as she makes her way to meet Woojin, she is once again pursued by her stalker. The stalker persists in trying to force her to go out with him and have a drink, but Hyeji desperately tries to evade him. Suddenly, Kyung-woo appears and fiercely warns the stalker not to ever follow Hyeji again. After that, Hyeji and Kyung-woo decide to grab a drink and chat further. As they sip on their beverages, she makes it clear that she is not interested in starting anything new romantically. Despite this, the two continue to talk and soon find themselves bonding in ways they hadn't expected initially. The next day, as they walk to class, Hyeji happens to spot Junsu and Seon locked in a passionate embrace. As the lesson comes to an end, Junsu approaches Hyeji with desperate pleas to rekindle their romance. But Hyeji brushes him off and reveals that she is now in a relationship with someone else. Later on, while grabbing a quick meal with Kyung-woo, Hyeji tells him that her ex-boyfriend, Junsu, is bothering her. Upon inquiry, she reveals that Junsu has not only cheated on her with her closest friend but also made it seem as though it was her mistake. Kyung-woo notices Hyeji's sadness and suggests a plan to boost her confidence. He tells her to show her ex-boyfriend that she's doing just fine without him. Without hesitation, Hyeji agrees and excitedly shares her idea of pretending to be in a relationship with Kyung-woo right in front of Junsu. The next day, during a group assignment, Kyung-woo and Hyeji make a grand entrance, hand in hand. Despite Jinsu's initial skepticism, Kyung-woo is able to convince him with their well-crafted story. He even goes as far as asking Junsu to leave Hyeji alone. After class, Kyung-woo affectionately wraps his arms around Hyeji, causing Junsu to feel jealous. As Hyeji heads back home, Junsu suddenly appears out of nowhere in an attempt to win her back by pleading with her to give him a second chance. He apologizes and promises to never repeat his mistake. But Hyeji isn't swayed by his words. Just then, Yoonji appears and defends her friend. She beats up Junsu and shouts at him to leave. The following day, Kyung-woo's keen eyes spot Junsu trailing behind them, and in a bold move, he kisses Hyeji. He then makes his exit, leaving Junsu to face Hyeji's confused gaze. Feeling guilty, Junsu apologizes to Hyeji again, explaining that his fling with Seon was nothing more than a one-time mistake. However, Hyeji is not content with just an apology. She pulls out her phone and reveals that she has recorded his entire conversation. Just then, Seon appears, and after hearing the recording on Hyeji's phone, her anger boils over, and she charges at Junsu, slapping him hard across the face before storming off in a rage. A few days later, Kyung-woo runs into Hyeji and inquires about her absence. She reveals that she's feeling much better now that she's settled things with Junsu. Kyung-woo then musters up the courage to ask her out on a date, but to his disappointment, Hyeji respectfully declines, stating that she's not looking to date anyone at this point in time. In the next scene, Hyeji and Kyung-woo go out for lunch. As they indulge in their meal, Kyung-woo becomes flirtatious and attempts to persuade Hyeji to go on a date with him. However, Hyeji remains unresponsive to his advances. Later, Hyeji spots Junsu with another girl. Just then, Yoonji approaches her and reveals that Junsu has been manipulating the freshman by pretending to be friendly to everyone. She then tells Hyeji not to fall for any guy who appears to be polite and lovely to every lady. Later that day, Hyeji chooses to go on a coffee date with Kyung-woo. However, their date is interrupted by Yoonji, who is astonished to find the two together. It turns out that Yoonji and Kyung-woo work in the same department. Yoonji receives a phone call and excuses herself. Seeing an opportunity, Kyung-woo and Hyeji go somewhere else where they can be alone. Then they sit in a park and eat ice cream while listening to music. As they talk, Hyeji confesses her lack of trust. Kyung-woo soothes her by explaining that her previous relationship ended because Junsu was unfaithful, which is not her fault, and that he is not like her ex, so she should give him a chance. As the film progresses, it is revealed that Hyeji has developed feelings for Kyung-woo. But, one day she spots him and Seon at the cafe and confronts them, asking why they are together, but it turns out that they're just completing their homework. As she walks away, Kyung-woo follows her and offers an apology for the misunderstanding. It is then that Hyeji opens up and reveals that Seon is the girl with whom her former lover cheated on her with. Later, Hyeji meets Woojin and reveals that she had developed feelings for someone, but is apprehensive about the possibility of getting hurt again. Sensing her uncertainty, Woojin offers wise counsel, suggesting that she take her time and get to know the person better before making any assumptions. The following morning, Kyung-woo ventures to the library with Hyeji to spend some time with her. There, the couple shares a lovely moment. After escorting her home, Kyung-woo assures Hyeji that he will not impose upon her until she feels ready to accompany him on a date. The next day, as Hyeji sets off for college, she receives a message from Kyung-woo, mentioning that he will be occupied with Yoonji as they prepare for their upcoming exams. As the hours tick by, Hyeji goes to the cafe where Kyung-woo is supposed to be. As she approaches the entrance, her heart sinks upon catching sight of Yoonji holding Kyung-woo's hand. Hyeji is further taken aback when she watches Kyung-woo escorting a drunken Yoonji back to her apartment. The following day, as Hyeji exits her classroom, she catches a glimpse of Kyung-woo in the company of Yoonji, inciting a wave of sadness within her. However, Woojin unexpectedly arrives and takes her to the park, where they indulge in a nostalgic stroll down memory lane over a refreshing drink, reminiscing about their old high school days. Upon arriving home, Yoonji inquires if something is troubling Hyeji, but Hyeji simply responds with a tired sigh and requests some privacy. The following day, as Hyeji encounters Kyung-woo, he expresses his disappointment about being ignored. Curious about Hyeji's peculiar behavior, Kyung-woo inquires about the reason for her strange actions. But to his surprise, Hyeji tells him that she no longer wishes for his presence in her life. Despite being completely clueless as to why Hyeji's behavior has changed, Kyung-woo tries to persuade her, but suddenly, Woojin appears on the scene and warns Kyung-woo to stay away from Hyeji as his actions are making her uncomfortable. Without delay, he takes Hyeji's hands and leads her away. Later, as Hyeji heads back to her apartment, she notices that someone is following her again. But luckily, Woojin appears just in time to save her. After arriving at her home, he can't contain his feelings any longer. With a flutter of nerves in his stomach, he confesses his crush on her and presents her with a thoughtful gift. He pledges to be patient and respectful of her decision, no matter how long it takes for her to respond. Several days later, as Hyeji spots Kyung-woo, her emotions take over, and she storms out to dine alone. On her way back, she comes across a drunk man, who tries to cause a commotion. But Woojin again arrives to help her, and fearlessly takes on the attacker, defending Hyeji's honor. As Woojin cleans Hyeji's injuries, offering her comfort and care, she can't help but feel touched by his attentiveness. However, upon returning home, she faces Yoonji and her concerns about their friendship. Hyeji seems distant and unresponsive, leaving Yoonji to question if there's any kind of misunderstanding between them. Hyeji visits a park and is joined by Woojin. She tells him that she has been struggling with her anger towards Yoonji, despite Yoonji being innocent. The thought of losing Yoonji due to her trust issues and inability to control her anger scares Hyeji. Additionally, she worries that everyone will eventually leave her, but Woojin reassures her by promising to always be there for her, as long as she doesn't push him away. The story shifts to a flashback where we see Hyeji being followed. It is revealed that the stalker is none other than Woojin himself. In the present, Hyeji tries to reconcile with Yoonji, and they plan to go shopping and spend time together. However, when Yoonji discovers that Woojin has been giving macaron to Hyeji, she becomes suspicious and asks if they are dating. Hyeji denies it, leading Yoonji to confess that she has feelings for Woojin. This leaves Hyeji in shock. Later in the class, Hyeji receives a text from Yoonji apologizing and asking her to forget her crush on Woojin. Soon, Woojin receives the same text from Yoonji on his phone, indicating that he might have hacked Hyeji's phone. When Hyeji tries to talk to Woojin after class, he stops her and assures her that they will still be friends despite her snap. Hyeji feels relieved by this. At night, Hyeji is concerned about Yoonji not returning home. In the meantime, she receives a text from Kyung-woo, asking to meet at a park near her house. Just then, Woojin tries to text Hyeji not to go outside, but the texts are deleted automatically. He also calls her, but she doesn't receive it. In a flashback, Woojin discovers a bag of lollipops for Hyeji from an unknown person in her locker, but he throws it away in the desk bin on his way to class. Then we are shown a series of flashbacks, revealing the real stalker. In the first one, Woojin is seen following Hyeji home. However, another person is also seen following her, but he quickly leaves when he sees Woojin. In another flashback, Yoonji is talking to Kyung-woo about someone who wears black clothes and a cap and has been stalking Hyeji. However, she is unsure of who it is. So, Kyung-woo decides to follow the stalker, and unexpectedly, he discovers that there are two people who look similar. Kyung-woo is able to catch one of them, who turns out to be Woojin. Upon asking, Woojin claims that he has been following the stalker himself in order to protect Hyeji. In the following flashback, it is revealed that Woojin did not hack Hyeji's phone. Instead, when her phone was dead, she logged into Woojin's phone to check out a restaurant she had seen on social media. However, she forgot to log out. When Woojin saw a stalker's message on Hyeji's messenger, he decided to keep an eye on her account to find out who the stalker was. Seon informs Kyung-woo that a guy from another department has been placing food in her locker, revealing that he is the same stalker who earlier pressured Hyeji to date him. A past incident is also brought to light, where Woojin discovers that the stalker has hacked into Hyeji's phone and deleted messages before she can see them. Additionally, the stalker has sent a message to Kyung-woo, requesting to meet at the college cafe instead of the park. At the present moment, Hyeji is waiting for Kyung-woo in the park. Just then, her phone runs out of battery, and to her surprise, The stalker also appears and approaches her, confessing that he is the one who has been following her for so long and delivering her presents. He attempts to force Hyeji to date him, but when she threatens to release the audio recording of his confession to her friends, he reminds her that her phone is dead. So, there is nothing she can do at the moment. He throws her to the ground, but thankfully Kyung-woo arrives just in time to save the day. He pushes the stalker back and threatens to have him imprisoned if he continues to bother Hyeji. The next day, Hyeji appears joyful and at peace now that the stalker has been dealt with and all problems have been cleared up. As Kyung-woo takes her to her school, she tells him not to worry about her anymore. In the next scene, she meets Woojin and asks him where he has been lately. Additionally, she praises him for telling Kyung-woo about the stalker just in time, which greatly helped in saving her life. As they continue to talk, Woojin reveals that he is going to take the following semester off and enlist in the military, believing that being away from Hyeji will let his affections for her fade. Hearing this, Hyeji breaks down, causing Woojin to comfort her. The movie concludes with Kyung-woo and Hyeji resuming their romance and living happily ever after.